All right, we're recording, so let's go to the slides for chapter 14 and talk about the bureaucracy. See, I even have the little guy from The Incredibles on the slide. I think he ended up with a broken neck, right? Mr. Incredible threw him through 6 walls or something. What is a bureaucracy? Any guesses? Well, my man on the street definition would be it's the people and organizations and offices and regulations that you have to go through to get something done. That's my man on the street definition, but let's look at an official definition of a bureaucracy. Basically, it is a hierarchy. A hierarchy, basically that is a system that has different levels. And in this case, with the federal bureaucracy, it is all the government agencies that exist to implement laws and government policies. Now, this slide will be on the test in a similar fashion as remember the pyramid from the first test about the king being on top and slaves being on the bottom. This is Weber's 5 characteristics of bureaucracy. It is not in your textbook, so write yourself a note. You will need to you can write this down in your notes and have it for the test in a couple of weeks, but you'll need this for the test so you can fill it out. The 5 characteristics are the hierarchy, and it is filled with people who are professionals or experts. So professionalization. If you've got an agency that is dealing with communications, like the Federal Communications Commission, you're going to want experts in communication on that agency. Then they deal with formality, that is rules, regulations, guidelines. They keep records. They keep fastidious records. That's a great word for you today, fastidious. Or intimate, detailed records. And then they are usually agencies that are specialized. And so if I go with the example that I used a few moments ago, the Federal Communications Commission, they're going to have experts. They're not going to have weather experts. They're going to have experts in communication, and you're going to have some that are specialized. For example, you might have communication experts from a radio station, someone who owns a radio station, someone who owns a television station. You're going to have communication professors from universities. So the professionalization is going to be specialized in that area. You're not going to have a bunch of doctors on the Federal Communications Commission. All right, so know these 5 characteristics of a bureaucracy. Any questions? As I get a sip of Joe. And I raise my cup of Joe to you. The great students of Southeast Oklahoma who laugh at my jokes. And right now you can only see my forehead. So the joke was on me. Why didn't you tell me? Okay. Leaving me hanging like that. All right, no questions. What do you need to know about this slide?
It's not in the book.
Right, and it's going to be on the test, right? All right, what does the federal bureaucracy do? And I just saw an error in my slide. It says 3 functions, but I've got 4. So while Keely is moving from one place to another, I will change that before your very eyes. To 4. The advantages of technology today. If I could just run it. All righty, now let me get this over there. 4. The 4 functions. All right, number 1. You guys will recall that the legislative branch of government does what?
Makes laws.
Makes laws. And then Panama, what does the executive branch do concerning laws?
It executes the laws and carries them out.
Right. So the bureaucracy administers the rules. That is, while the legislature makes them and the executive makes sure they're enforced, and the executive branch does that through the bureaucracy. So the bureaucracy administers the rules of public policy. On page 511, another word is it implements them. This is the main function of the bureaucracy. Bob Parr, AKA Mr. Incredible, was not taking care of, he was not dealing with his insurance customers according to the rules of the bureaucracy. A second key function of the bureaucracy is to make more rules. This is on page 512. Now, the bureaucracy will get a law, right, from Congress and the president. Let's say the law is all natural gas companies have to reduce their carbon dioxide production by 15%. That's the law. What the bureaucracy does then is makes more detailed rules and regulations and guidelines that those natural gas companies would have to follow to bring down their carbon dioxide production. They might have to do a number of different rules and guidelines that the bureaucracy comes up with. Rulemaking is also referred to in your textbook as the regulatory process, regulating private sector companies and individuals to stay in line with the overall law. The next function, number 3, found on page 513, rule adjudication. And this is to monitor, in other words, these agencies and the bureaucracy are going to monitor companies, individuals, corporations, to see if the rules are being followed or if they're being broken. That is, they're making sure the laws are enforced. In the case of Bob Parr, it went all the way to his boss, who saw a bunch of rules and regulations being sidestepped or overlooked. There's a good example mentioned in the textbook on page 513. A few years ago, the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, fined Volkswagen $15.8 billion, which Volkswagen did pay because Volkswagen was cheating on their road emissions tests. They had installed software into their testing computers. And so when they tested their new vehicles, this software gave a false reading that basically said their emissions were within the standard guidelines. But really, they were emitting more toxins than they were supposed to, and they got caught. And they did admit it, and they did pay the $15.8 billion. And then a fourth function that our textbook mentions, also at the bottom of page 513 through 514, is these agencies within the bureaucracy are to innovate. So innovation, because they are made up of people who are experts, as they implement laws and as they come up with guidelines, as they monitor companies, as they monitor individuals, as they monitor all of the guidelines and things that they come up with, at times they're able to see where they can improve, and they innovate, and they come up with new things or better things, better ways of doing things. And the big example that our textbook points out is that that the innovation of some of our government agencies beginning in the 1950s led to the creation in 1971 of what is called ARPANET, which was basically a precursor to the internet. So all of these four things here is what the what the bureaucracy does. This is something Congress doesn't do it. Congress just makes the laws. The president, implements it, and then it goes to the bureaucracy to administer and enforce and regulate. So any questions on those four functions of the bureaucracy? Anything? How's pictures going in Panama? Is this the official yearbook pictures? Yes and yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's our group photos, and we are taking retakes as well today.
Okay. Yeah, they told me earlier.
Yeah.
But what was your question? I thought you said you had a question. The bill.
Yeah.
Okay. So like whenever we're
bill.
writing it, can we use the one that you gave us like as an example, like to go back and look at, or do you want like a completely different idea?
You mean the paper I gave you with all the details? Like so much
Like-
money was given by Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to make sure you look at that because that's got specific details in there about how your bill is to be written.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now I have a question for you guys that I forgot to ask Monday. Can someone please explain TikTok to me? What are these videos about?
Did you ever like get into Vine? Like those little short videos that were just like super ridiculous. That's pretty much what it is. And there's like a bunch of different things. Like you can make videos explaining things, videos doing like stupid things, funny videos, sad videos, like acting videos. You can do anything, post it on there. And then your For You page is videos that they think you might like based on videos that you have liked before. And then you can post whatever you want. It's just a normal form of social media, basically.
And so is Vine.
Yeah, Vine was closed down. Vine's like the original version of TikTok, kind of. Like if you squint.
Okay. I'm old school. I mean, I got a Facebook. I do have my YouTube channel, but that's because I had to do it for Carl Albert. Well, it seems like the most of the ones I see are the silly, stupid ones. It's like all these people doing stuff to music. Anyway. And they're coming up on my Facebook feed. Is that right? Should TikTok be coming up on Facebook?
Yeah,
Okay.
it can, yeah.
I've been thinking about getting Instagram. Is that cool?
Yeah, I don't have Facebook. I just have Instagram. I should probably get a Facebook because like everything's on Facebook, but
Yeah.
I just have an Instagram.
All right. So, bringing up those things, it's okay because we have agencies that have to regulate social media giants. All right, let's move on. our textbook words it this way: how the bureaucracy is organized. Basically, the different types of agencies. And there's 4. And you can see these are pages 517 through 521. Now, remember, the bureaucracy falls under the umbrella of the executive branch. So, last chapter, we talked about the cabinet, the president's cabinet. That's a part of the executive office of the presidency. The cabinet is the 15 department secretaries. So those 15 departments, 15 executive departments, are a part of the bureaucracy. Once again, there is a graphic on page 518 that has these 15 departments. Three of you are the secretaries of 3 of those departments for our class project, right? All right, next we have, and let me see, I think I got a separate slide. Yeah, here we go. Here they are. The 15 different departments. Now, we can see evidence of some of these departments very easily. For example, if you go to Muskogee, yeah, you have a dad or an uncle or a relative who's a veteran, they may have to go to the Veterans Hospital in Muskogee. That falls under the Veterans Affairs. If you go to the airport to take a flight somewhere, you're going to see all the TSA agents, airport security. It's been tightened since 9/11. That comes under the Homeland Security Department. So we see signs of these 15 departments in our everyday life. Another type of agency are independent. I'm going to go down to the 4th one. Independent agencies. I'm going to go in the order that they're in the book. Independent agencies. Now, this is something to remember. They are not a part of the executive department, although they are in the bureaucracy. You guys ever seen those interlocking circles? And there's a part of one circle that is all by itself. And all 3 of the circles have a separate part. And then there's the parts where they overlap. So think of the bureaucracy. It mostly overlaps with the executive department, but there's a part of it that doesn't, and that's the independent agencies. These are groups like NASA. NASA is an independent agency. Other groups include FEMA. If there's like a tornado, like a few years ago, there was a tornado that hit near Tushka, Oklahoma, south of McAllister. And so our governor would call upon the president to act, and he would send in FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association, I think. And then you can see some of the other independent agencies. The CIA is independent of the executive branch. All right, a third kind. Page 518. Independent regulatory commissions. Independent regulatory commissions. So they are smaller commissions or groups that are given a lot of leeway, and they, as you can see, regulate certain areas. So let me show you some of them. I mentioned earlier the Federal Communications Commission. At one time, this really focused on, before the internet and before television even became popular, radio broadcasting. Because radio was the main way that people listened to news or listened to entertainment. Now it does cover now television, but it's going to regulate, for example, what kind of language can be used on programs if there's inappropriate language. For television, inappropriate content that would be viewed. They come up with the rating systems, right? TV 14 or whatever the rating is. Movie ratings are like R and PG-13 and G. So that's what, it's regulating what can be communicated. There's a Federal Trade Commission, Federal Reserve System, Securities Exchange Commission, many different type of regulatory commissions. And then the fourth kind is government corporations. Government companies that serve the public for a fee. And these are corporations that are supposed to be self-supporting. An example is the United States Postal System. The U.S. Postal System is a corporation, and through their selling of stamps and other postage, their services for sending packages overseas or across the country, whether it's first class or priority mail or insured mail, this is how they make money. And that's how they support themselves. And you can see some of the other government corporations. Now, using that graphic on page 518, you can see how the bureaucracy is fit together kind of in a hierarchy diagram. The executive department is on top. Then you have your 15 departments that are headed by the cabinet members. Excuse me. Then all those commissions and corporations we just talked about, except for the independent agencies which do not come under the executive branch. Technically, the president cannot order the CIA to assassinate a foreign dictator. All right, so I wanted to show you something that's on page 517. When looking at the federal bureaucracy, and I forget, I'm wanting to say it's 1 to 2 million people who are a part of the overall bureaucracy. It's a lot of people. Notice in the middle, about the middle of page 517, over 80% of the federal civilian workforce are in those 15 executive departments. Over 80%. So this is where a big chunk of the civilian workforce under the federal government works. So that's all the information we want to cover today. Is there any questions? Going to get a little extra time. Maybe enough time to go make that next TikTok video. All right, well, keep working on those tests. You have until Friday evening to finish them. And yeah,